If you are over 60, and every morning when you look in the mirror, you feel that your face looks softer, that it's sagging faster even though you still take regular care of your skin, then please pause for a moment. You are not imagining it. And you have not done everything wrong. So many women have told me the exact same thing. They use moisturizer. They take collagen. They avoid harsh sunlight, yet their face still changes in a way that makes them feel less confident with each passing year. Here is where the real issue lies. After 60, the skin no longer responds to daily habits the same way it used to. There are things that seem very small, repeated every single day, that are quietly sending the wrong signal to the body. And when that signal repeats for long enough, the skin begins to sag faster than your actual age. In this video, I'm going to point out one very common daily habit that many women over 60 are doing, without realizing that it's causing their face to sag more quickly. Not to make you anxious, but to help you take back control. Before we continue, I want to ask you one simple question. Which state or which country are you watching this video from? Please leave a comment below. I read every single comment, and it helps me better understand the women who are walking alongside this channel. And if you believe that women over 60 deserve to truly understand their bodies, please press subscribe to help the Woman Over 60 Secrets channel reach 100,000 subscribers. Every subscription doesn't just support the channel, it helps this message reach other women who need it. Now, let's begin with that habit that seems harmless. The habit I want to talk about today is not a product you're using. It's not something you eat every day, and it's not anything extreme or difficult to do. It's a very familiar habit. So familiar that many women don't even think it has anything to do with their skin. It's skipping daily protection from sunlight, especially at times when you think, today it's probably not necessary. So many women over 60 have told me, I don't really go out in the sun. I'm mostly indoors. The weather is mild today, not harsh. Those thoughts are completely understandable, because for many years before, your body had a much stronger ability to tolerate damage and repair itself. But what very few people clearly explain is this. After 60, the skin no longer operates the same way it used to. The skin is thinner, the protective barrier is weaker, and most importantly, the speed of self-repair after small damage is much slower. The sunlight we're talking about is not just strong beach sun or midday summer heat. UVA rays pass through windows, daylight exposure while driving, sitting near a window, a short morning walk when you think, this sunlight is gentle. All of these things, even though they seem minor, are affecting the skin little by little. And when that small exposure repeats every day, the body begins to receive a very clear signal. A signal you may not consciously feel, but your body does. This environment is not completely safe. Prioritize survival protection first. Skin repair can wait. When the body enters that priority mode, collagen and elastin, the two components that keep your face firm, lifted, and structurally supported, are no longer protected and maintained the way they once were. The important thing you need to understand is this. Skin does not sag just because of age. If age were the only reason, all women of the same age would age in exactly the same way. But that's not reality. Faster sagging after 60 happens because the skin no longer has enough time and the right conditions to repair the small damages that quietly occur every day. That's why some women, in just a few years, feel that their face has changed very quickly, even though they haven't made any major changes in their lives. Not because they did something wrong, not because they neglected themselves, but because one very familiar habit is no longer suitable for the way the body functions at this stage of life. And when you understand this, something very important becomes clear. You don't need to start everything over. You don't need a whole lineup of new products. You just need to adjust one key point in a way that aligns with your body's current biological rhythm. When that adjustment is repeated long enough, your face can slow down significantly compared to now, naturally, sustainably, and without putting pressure on your body. And that is the foundation for skin after 60 to not only be protected, but to have a real chance to maintain its lift and support over time. When we are young, our skin is like a thick, elastic cushion. Collagen is produced steadily. Elastin remains flexible and resilient, and whenever the skin is affected by the environment, sun, wind, temperature changes, the body can repair it fairly quickly, almost silently. That is why, when we were younger, many women could spend an entire day in the sun, and the skin would still recover afterward. But after 60, everything begins to operate under a different set of rules. The skin becomes thinner, the protective skin barrier becomes weaker, the blood vessels that nourish the skin slow down, and most importantly, the rate of collagen regeneration decreases significantly. This does not mean that the body stops producing collagen. The body does not abandon your skin. It simply becomes more cautious in how it uses its energy. After 60, the body is constantly forced to make priority decisions. The cardiovascular system, the brain, the digestive system, the immune system. These are systems directly tied to survival, and when energy is limited, they are always placed first. The skin, even though it is deeply important for emotional well-being, confidence, and quality of life, is often placed last on the repair list. And this is the key point. When the skin is exposed to sunlight every day, even for very short moments, UV rays still create microscopic damage within the structure of collagen and elastin. When we are young, the body can repair this damage quite quickly, almost patching it up before you ever notice. But after 60, if those small injuries repeat day after day, the body no longer has enough space to keep up with the repair process. At that point, a very quiet imbalance begins to occur. Collagen breaks down faster than it can be rebuilt. Elastin gradually loses its elasticity, and the face begins to descend under gravity, most commonly seen in the cheeks, the nasolabial folds, and the jawline. What leaves many women feeling confused is this: the change does not happen suddenly. There is no single day when you wake up and feel that you have aged overnight. It happens very slowly, very quietly, little by little, until one day you look in the mirror and suddenly think, "It feels like my face has changed so much in just a few years." That feeling often leads many women to blame themselves. But the truth is, that's not what's happening. It's not because you aged too fast, and it's not because you didn't take good enough care of your skin. It's because your skin has been absorbing too many small daily impacts, while your body no longer has the same conditions to compensate the way it once did. And here is the good news. When you understand this mechanism, you begin to realize that your skin does not need a miracle. What matters more is changing the signals you are sending to your skin every single day. When those signals become gentler, more stable, and aligned with the biological rhythm after 60, the body begins to respond differently, not loudly, not urgently, but enough to slow the sagging process and help the skin maintain its structural support longer over time. So many women over 60 say something like this to me: "I take very good care of my skin. I never skip my skincare steps. I use the best products I can afford." And that is completely true. You have not been careless. You have invested time, money, and genuine attention into your skin. But there is one important truth that very few people clearly explain. After 60, external skincare alone is no longer the only deciding factor. Imagine your skin as a garden. Serums, creams, masks are like watering the surface. That helps the garden look fresher in the short term. The leaves look greener, the surface feels softer. But if the soil underneath is no longer strong, if the roots are not being nourished properly, that garden will still weaken over time, no matter how consistently you water it. After 60, the soil of the skin is no longer the same as before. That includes slower blood circulation, reduced anti-inflammatory capacity, and especially a change in how the body prioritizes and distributes energy. When the skin is exposed to sunlight every day, even very lightly, the body is forced to shift into a very familiar state, a defensive state. In that state, the body focuses on preventing damage from spreading, keeping things from getting worse, protecting the most critical systems. But at the same time, it reduces investment in long-term processes, such as building and maintaining the skin's structural support. That is why so many women feel that their skin still feels smooth to the touch, still feels moisturized, still appears carefully cared for. But when they look at the overall picture, the face lacks lift, the cheeks droop, the jawline is no longer clearly defined. The face looks softer in a downward direction, not because the products you use aren't strong enough, and not because you haven't done enough, but because your skin is receiving too many repeated disruptive signals every day, while the signals for repair are simply too weak. And this is the key point. To slow sagging after 60, it's not about adding another product to your shelf, and it's not about switching to a more expensive treatment. It's about stopping the signals that force the body to stay in constant defense mode. When those disruptive signals decrease, the body begins to feel more safe. And only then does it allow collagen and elastin to be preserved longer in the skin. Not to make the skin young again like it was at 20, but to maintain structure, lift, and stability longer over time. Many women are surprised to discover that simply adjusting a few small daily signals allows the skin to respond differently. Not quickly, not dramatically, but enough for them to feel that they are no longer working against their body but moving with it, in the way that fits this stage of life. What surprises many women is this. To slow sagging after 60, you don't need to do more. You simply need to do things more accurately, in a way that matches how your body is functioning at this stage of life. The first adjustment, and the most important one, is protecting your skin from sunlight proactively every single day. Even on days when you think, today probably isn't necessary, not because today's sunlight is especially strong, but because the body remembers repetition. The body does not evaluate each day in isolation. It looks at a chain of consecutive days. And from that, it decides what to prioritize. When you apply sunscreen in the morning, when you gently protect your skin as you go outside, the body receives a very different signal than before. Today's environment is safer. There's no need to stay tense and defensive. When that safety signal is repeated long enough, the body begins to change how it distributes energy. It no longer has to stay in constant defense mode. It no longer has to keep everything from getting worse. Instead, it begins to allow repair to happen slowly but sustainably, not overnight, but through small days that add up over time. The second adjustment is reducing those quiet but prolonged sun exposures, the moments that many women don't even notice. For example, sitting close to a window at midday, driving long distances without protecting the face, going for a morning walk and thinking, the sun is still weak, it's fine after 60. These seemingly small things create a very big difference over time, not because they are intense, but because they are repeated consistently. The third adjustment is consistency, not being very diligent one day and forgetting for the next few days, not caring for your skin intensely at times and completely neglecting it at others, but small actions, repeated, gentle, and aligned with the body's biological rhythm at this stage of life. When you do that, you are not only protecting your skin, you are changing the message your body receives every day from "I need to defend myself" to "I'm allowed to repair." Now, I want to ask you one very simple question, and I ask that you answer honestly with yourself. Have you ever applied sunscreen every single day? If never, or very rarely, please comment 0. If you've done it fairly regularly but not consistently, please comment 1. I want to read your answer, not to judge, not to compare, but to help you realize this. One small adjustment today, when repeated the right way, can create a very big difference in your face over the next few years. And that difference doesn't come from trying harder, but from finally moving with your body instead of against it. One very important thing that many women over 60 often miss is this. When the skin begins to recover, it rarely shows up as an obvious, immediate change. There is no moment when you wake up and suddenly see your face look younger. There are no loud or dramatic signs. The early changes are usually very subtle, so subtle that if you're not paying attention, you might think, maybe everything is still the same. But in reality, the body has already started to respond. The first sign usually isn't something you see in the mirror, but something you feel in your skin throughout the day. Many women share that by late afternoon, their skin no longer feels tight, irritated, or exhausted like before. The cheeks and the jawline no longer feel heavy, no longer feel as if they are being pulled downward as the day goes on. When washing their face in the evening, the skin feels softer, not because they switched to a new product, but because the skin no longer has to stay in constant defense all day long. That is the first sign that the body has begun to recognize that the surrounding environment is a little safer. The second sign is stability. Before, the skin might look better one morning, but after spending a bit more time outside, or after just one night of poor sleep, everything would decline very quickly again. When safety signals are maintained consistently day after day, the skin begins to hold its balance for longer periods. There are no longer extreme ups and downs from one day to the next. No more feeling that today is fine, but tomorrow suddenly looks much worse. For skin after 60, this stability is far more valuable than short-term improvements, because it shows that the body is no longer reacting in a constant defensive mode. The third sign usually appears later, but when it does, it is well worth noticing. It is the sense that the face is no longer sagging as quickly as before. Not that it looks visibly lifted, not that it suddenly looks younger, but that the downward progression has slowed. After 60, this slowing down is the true foundation for any long-term change, because the goal at this stage is not to turn back time. It's not to force the body to return to how it was when you were young. It is to prevent the decline from happening too fast. When that downward pace slows, after some time, you may begin to notice something very special. Your face starts to feel familiar again, not because of a dramatic transformation, but because it is no longer quietly losing itself little by little each day. And at that moment, many women begin to understand something important. It's not that they need to do more. It's not that they need to try harder. It's about not unintentionally doing the wrong things, small things that seem insignificant, but are repeated every single day. When those small things are adjusted correctly, the body does the rest slowly, quietly, and far more sustainably than any rushed solution ever could. Once they realize that sunlight and everyday exposures affect the skin more than they had imagined, many women begin to make changes. They apply sunscreen more regularly. They protect their skin more carefully when going outside. They feel that they are finally doing things right. But after some time passes, many of them tell me, "My skin is a little better, but my face still doesn't really feel firmer. The sagging has slowed down, but not as much as I expected." And this is where a very common mistake appears. That mistake is this: protecting the skin, but creating additional pressure on the skin at the same time. After 60, the skin no longer responds well to things that are too strong or too intense. But many women, driven by the desire to improve quickly, unintentionally, do the opposite. They use sunscreens with textures that are too heavy, leaving the skin feeling tight and suffocated all day. They cleanse more aggressively because they fear clogged pores. They layer many products at once, hoping to make up for it faster. And what happens as a result? The skin is protected, but the nervous system beneath the skin remains in a state of mild, prolonged tension. The skin isn't visibly damaged, but it also isn't truly relaxed enough to recover. After 60, the skin needs two things at the same time: protection and comfort. When the skin is constantly tense, heavy, or feels forced to perform, the body still receives the signal that the environment is not fully safe. And when that signal persists, collagen is still not prioritized the way you hope it will be. This is why some women use many products, yet their face still lacks natural lift. Not because they don't care enough, but because their care is not aligned with the biological rhythm of skin after 60. At this stage of life, the skin needs consistency, gentleness, and simplicity. Less but correct, slower but sustainable. When you begin to truly feel your skin throughout the day, to notice whether it feels comfortable, whether it can breathe, that is when you step into a completely different approach to skincare. An approach that does not fight time, but moves with your body. And it is at that point that lasting change truly begins. Looking back at everything we've talked about, you may have noticed one very clear thing. Skin after 60 is not weaker. It is simply more sensitive to the signals repeated every day. It's not that your collagen disappeared. It's not that your body turned its back on you. It's that the way your body prioritizes and protects energy has changed. When you unintentionally repeat habits that are no longer suitable, even very small ones, the body chooses defense. And in that state, the skin cannot maintain the same level of lift as before. But when you begin sending different signals, gentler, more stable, and aligned with your current rhythm of life, the body responds in a very subtle way. Not loudly, not instantly, but enough to slow the sagging process and help you feel more familiar with your own face again. If this video helped you realize that even one daily habit can create a big difference over time, please press like to support the channel. And if you want to continue understanding more deeply how a woman's body changes after 60 from skin and sleep to overall vitality, please subscribe to Woman Over 60 Secrets. Every subscription helps these accurate, thoughtful messages reach more women who are quietly searching for answers just like you. Thank you for staying until the very end, and I'll see you in the next video.